I want to walk you through that timeline one more time because the order matters. And the order matters because the dominant Western narrative of this week, the narrative on American cable news has been that Iran reversed on a deal. That is not what happened. On Friday, Iran opened the strait. Iran kept the deal. Iran did the hardest thing Tehran could do, politically with its own hardliners, with its own Revolutionary Guard, with its own street. Arakchi tied the opening explicitly to the Lebanon ceasefire. The architecture was working. On Saturday, Trump kept the blockade. That is the moment the trust broke, not after, not before. Not because of Iranian provocations, before any Iranian gunboats fired on anything. The American president was told that Iran had opened the strait, and his response was to keep American warships blocking Iranian ports. On Sunday, Trump escalated again. The USS Spurance fired on the commercial vessel and the Marines boarded it. This is the first vessel the Americans have boarded since the blockade began. And it was boarded after Iran had made the largest peace gesture in the 50 days' time. Reuters have been precise about this sequence. So has Al Jazeera. So has the BBC. So it appears that the reason Iran has stopped trusting the United States is empirical. It's based on evidence. Iran did the thing what Americans asked for, and the Americans escalated again. The Iranian government has now concluded that they are saying this on the record, that Washington is not negotiating. Washington is performing negotiation while running a parallel war. That conclusion has consequences. It means Tehran may or may not make another concession before Wednesday. It means the ceasefire dies on schedule, maybe. It means oil stays at $96. It means Americans' gas stays at 4 or 5, or it means whatever the United States military does next will happen against an Iran that has stopped believing American assurances mean anything. And the next question, the question that follows naturally, is why? Why did Trump keep the blockade after Iran opened the strait? Why fire on Iranian vessels? Whose interests were actually being served by killing the deal at the moment of maximum opportunity? 60% of Americans want the war ended. Confidence in Trump's handling of Iran is at 35%. The price at the pump is destroying the approval rating even further. So those interests, whose interest was that? This is the next story. We have with us Ambassador Munir Akram, senior diplomat and former permanent representative of Pakistan to UN. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us. If I just briefly walk you through the Iranian decision-making between Thursday night and Sunday night, Arakchi opens the strait on Friday. Trump keeps the blockade on Saturday. The Supreme National Security Council reverses it on Saturday afternoon. So this kind of firing on the Iranian vessel, where is this taking the whole thing?
Well, I think there is obviously some disconnect between policy making in Washington. On the one hand, seeking talks, agreeing to a second round of talks with Iran in Islamabad, but at the same time maintaining the blockade against Iran, and at the same time then enforcing that blockade by firing on an Iranian tanker or Iranian ship. I think these actions are erosive of the dialogue, and very regrettable.
The phrase the Iranian foreign minister used today was that Washington violated the ceasefire from the beginning of its implementation. It's a strong claim, but it is factually correct as well. Was the American blockade imposed on April 13 a violation of the April 8 ceasefire, in your opinion?
Well, we have to see it in context. When the ceasefire was announced, the Iranians had agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz, yes, in coordination with their military authorities, but they had agreed to open the Hormuz Strait. But then Israel started its attacks on Lebanon, which Iran felt that Lebanon was covered in the ceasefire, and we agreed with Iran that Lebanon was covered by the ceasefire. Then they closed the Strait of Hormuz because of that. Then the U.S. put the blockade. Lebanon ceasefire was declared. Iran then said we are opening the Strait of Hormuz. But then Trump welcomed the opening, but at the same time maintained a blockade against Iran. And obviously, Iran then reversed its position. They said if the blockade applies only to Iran, in that case, we'll close it to everybody. So I think this is back and forth. It's been a series of actions that have been contrary to the declarations of seeking a peaceful settlement, and I believe that these have not contributed to the prospects for dialogue and an agreement. It's most regrettable.
Is it coercive diplomacy or a manipulative diplomacy at play? Is it for the domestic audience for the both sides? What do you make of this moment?
Well, you know, the attack against Lebanon was an attempt by Israel to sabotage the ceasefire. That's clear.
Yeah.
And then Pakistan obviously exercised its relations with President Trump, and President Trump then exerted pressure on Netanyahu to stop the attacks in Lebanon and declared the 10-day ceasefire. But at the same time, having put the blockade on the blockade, and the U.S. blockade, I think the Iranians expected that once they removed the blockade after the Lebanon ceasefire, that the U.S. would automatically remove its own blockade, because that was a blockade on a blockade. But the U.S. then decided to preserve the blockade against Iran specifically. And I think that obviously was...
it's the opposite of any CBM. It's the opposite of any diplomacy.
Yeah, it was not in good faith. And I think it was assertion of American hubris, trying to keep itself as a hegemon, and to show that it could coerce Iran. And I think that's a bad move. The Iranians feel that they are in a better position by blocking the Strait of Hormuz. The pain on the world economy and on the U.S. economy is going to rise day by day. So I think it was a self-defeating move by the Americans.
Why would President Trump do that? Because we are all discussing this, that they are just short of the midterm elections. Some say that whether there are Democrats coming in majority in those elections or Republicans, it won't make any difference, because on the agenda with Israel, every president remains the same. Every party follows the same line, given the AIPAC and the lobbyists so closely linked to American foreign policy. So is it that whatsoever happens, it's not about the public good, it's not about the gas prices, it's only about appeasing the Israel? That's what's going on at the moment.
Well, I think it's partly driven by the friends of Israel in the U.S. Establishment and the U.S. administration. It's a powerful lobby. But also, I think, President Trump wants to demonstrate that American military power is supreme, and that they have been able to coerce Iran into making concessions for domestic reasons. He wants to show how his war has enabled him to coerce Iran into an agreement. It's counterfactual, but this is what they want to project. And therefore, this demonstration of American military power that we can impose this embargo on Iran, specifically in order to neutralize Iranian ability to close the Strait of Hormuz. But this is self-defeating because if they blockade Iran, Iran blockades everybody, and the global
And
economy
it might
suffers.
go to Bab el Mandab.
Bab al-Mandab is also another thing, but just by closing Hormuz for everybody, the 20% of world oil supplies are cut off.
Yeah.
The inflation will rise, oil prices will go up, everybody will suffer. So I think it's a short-sighted and self-defeating action done with the idea of showing off American military might.
So, how are you reading the moment? Is it likely that before the end of the ceasefire, the two parties would be on the table?
Yeah, I think at this moment the Iranians have taken a hard line, perhaps rightly so. I think they would need to be persuaded to to continue the dialogue process. I think it would be wise for us as the mediator to try and at least get an extension of the ceasefire in to allow the dialogue process to continue. But it remains to be seen whether Iran and the U.S. will agree to the ceasefire. Maybe, maybe there is a desire to have another round of attacks. In which case, I think it will be devastating for the whole region and for the world economy.
Ambassador Munir Akram, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you on our show.